January 12th, 1979. Zedx Flight 987 prepared for its normal route from Brookhaven to Detroit, with pilots Sylvester Good and Mike Essex on duty. And, in a relatively common occurrence on these types of flights, fellow Zedx employee Robert Silver boarded as a deadhead passenger. Deadheading is the routine practice of carrying an employee free of charge from one location to another. At 7:53 a.m., Air Traffic Controller Jimmy Richmond cleared the plane for takeoff as Robert Silver took his seat and put a sinister plan into action. Just as the flight reached cruising altitude, Silver began attacking the pilots with various items from his carry-on bag.
"What are you doing? You're messing up my hair! Get him out of here!" But Robert Silver was relentless. "Stop that! Get out! Now!" Jeez Louise, what a clown! But the assaults continued, on and on. "How'd you fit all that stuff in your carry-on, man?" "Oh, stop! Don't! I'm warning you!" 30 minutes into the flight, the attacks were still going strong. "Oh, paper cut! Not cool!" Until finally, the crew had had enough. "That's it! It's on now!"
As First Officer Mike Essex worked to subdue Robert Silver, a mildly bruised Captain Sylvester Good began to maneuver the plane in hopes of knocking the attacker off balance. The plan worked. The co-pilot was able to restrain Robert Silver while Captain Good called for an unscheduled return to Brookhaven Airport with armed intervention upon landing. Miraculously, no one was seriously injured, but hundreds of packages were damaged, destroyed, and delayed in this shocking event. The pilots of Flight 987 were awarded the Gold Medal of Honor for heroism and returned to work the next day. Meanwhile, at his trial, Silver pled insanity but was found guilty and sentenced to 2 consecutive life sentences. As a result, the NTSB made recommendations for more thorough mental health evaluations and outreach for employees. October 3rd, 1989 was a busy and foggy morning at Brookhaven Airport as Air Traffic Controller Wanda Dauber Hughes started her shift. It was her 3rd day on the job. Wanda got busy immediately making radio contact with Flight 202 inbound from Georgia, transporting violent criminals to Brookhaven Correctional Facility. After a series of delays en route, the pilots of Flight 202 were anxious to land and made sure Wanda knew it.
"Hey, Towers!
It's Bravo 202! You better get your act together! Clear me to land
Already!"
Flustered and preoccupied with a missing flight progress strip, Wanda gave Flight 202 clearance to land, even though another plane, Flight 516, also transporting violent criminals, was still occupying the runway as they completed their pre-flight checklist. Due to the dense fog, the pilots of Flight 202 didn't see the other plane until it was too late.
Ah! Ah!
Wanda watched in disbelief as the collision occurred. Both planes mangled beyond recognition, their flaming wreckage scattered along the runway. Rescue crews arrived on the scene and were miraculously able to save all 4 pilots. None of the violent criminals survived the crash. Following an investigation, the NTSB recommended improved training for air traffic controllers.
And Wanda Dauber Hughes continued to work without incident as an air traffic controller until her retirement in 2020.
In September 2024, a group of Happy Burger executives boarded a private jet for an island vacation. The trip to the island went without incident, but on the return flight, something went horribly wrong. At 12:57 p.m., the pilots took off from Paradise Island and made their last transmission to air traffic control.
November 731 Bravo, departing.
15 minutes later, as the flight entered Brookhaven airspace, Brookhaven Air Traffic Control received handoff of Flight N731B. Due to multiple delays at Brookhaven Airport, Air Traffic Controller Jamie Yokel attempted to contact and inform the crew.
November 731 Bravo, cleared to enter Brookhaven, maintain 25,000 feet, fly heading 090.
She received no response. Concerned, she radioed a nearby aircraft to do a visual check on the non-responsive plane.
Brookhaven Air 27 Heavy, can you visually confirm location of November 731 Bravo?
It was news no air traffic controller wants to receive. By the looks of things, there were no living souls on board, meaning Flight N731B was a ghost plane. Jamie Yokel immediately requested a jet to intercept the flight and essentially serve as an escort to the ghost plane to ensure it did not crash into a heavily populated area. Less than an hour later, the ghost plane exhausted its fuel resources and plummeted in an uncontrolled descent to the ground into an open field on the outskirts of town. There were no survivors. The NTSB determined that the plane had rapidly depressurized, causing all on board to gradually lose consciousness. And it was likely the pilots quickly lost the cognitive ability to troubleshoot the problem and react effectively. Following the tragic loss of their top executives, Happy Burger closed for good and sold the remains of their company to Burger Barn, which opened in December 2024, serving Happy Burger's popular Big Cheese in honor of the victims of Flight N731B. February 28, 1950. Brookhaven's beloved Mayor Jeff Goggles was scheduled to attend a Robloxian Peace Summit in Bloxburg. He boarded the mayoral plane, Brook Force One, at 5:55 p.m., along with his assistant, Tom Foolery. Air Traffic Controller Ira Newport cleared the plane for departure at 6:11 p.m. Mayor Goggles relaxed in the luxurious aircraft as it reached cruising altitude, and then the unexpected happened. A masked man emerged from the kitchen area of the aircraft. He had a gun and a list of demands. At 6:26 p.m., Air Traffic Controller Ira Newport received one of the worst calls an air traffic controller can receive. Brook Force One had been hijacked, and the mayor, along with the others on board, was being held for ransom in the amount of $6 million. Thinking he had the situation under control, the hijacker moved about the plane, leaving Mayor Goggles and his assistant alone. That's when Tom Foolery alerted Mayor Goggles to the parachute on board, a standard feature in all mayoral aircrafts. Mayor Goggles quickly donned the chute and leapt from the plane, his best chance at safety. Alas, he landed on a deserted island. It took 9 days for rescue crews to find Mayor Goggles. Upon his return, Mayor Goggles attempted to resume his post as mayor, but due to severe bouts of trauma-induced anxiety, he vacated the position 1 week later.
Since a dedicated task force to investigate aviation accidents had not yet been established in 1950, the disappearance of Brook Force One was never thoroughly investigated, and to this day the missing aircraft and its passengers have never been found. It remains one of Brookhaven's biggest mysteries.
March 28, 1965. It was spring break in Brookhaven, and many residents were taking much-needed vacations to exotic locations, such as Flight 5, Brookhaven's non-stop flight to Costco. In the cockpit were veteran pilot Jules Vanderwall and new pilot Cal French, with Maud Lundgren serving as flight attendant. The crew was cleared for takeoff at 1:13 p.m. As they reached cruising altitude, Captain Vanderwall instructed First Officer French to take the controls.
You've got the controls. You're doing great.
Thanks.
As noted on the cockpit voice recorder, banter was light, professional, and normal, until 1:17, when the voice recorder picked up Captain Vanderwall sensing trouble.
What's that smell? Is that smoke?
Air Traffic Controller Joe Murphy scrambled to make way for the maligned flight and instructed them on their approach. Meanwhile, things on board Flight 5 had gone from bad to worse, as Flight Attendant Maud informed the pilots that there was a fire in the rear of the plane. A big one. Captain Vanderwall sprung into action, leaving Cal French to fly the aircraft. But the fire was spreading fast, too fast, and soon everyone on board was overcome with smoke, including Cal French, who passed out on the controls, lunging the plane into a dive, directly into a construction site on Cherry Road. There were no survivors. In response to the crash, a group was formed to investigate and make safety recommendations. This group would be known as the NTSB, National Transportation Safety Board, and Flight 5 was their first case. They determined the cause of the crash of Flight 5 to simply be the Cherry Road curse. New Year's Day, 1993, Brookhaven Airport. Flight 600 was at the gate, ready to board a special load of passengers, courtesy of One Last Trip, an agency that coordinates amazing vacations with people who are about to die. Earl Mertz, Glenda White, Miriam Winger, and Stanley Rumpel begrudgingly boarded the plane at 6:14 p.m. And by 6:30, the plane was taxiing down the runway, helmed by pilots Ed Jones and Gene Smith. On liftoff, the plane made its scheduled turn westward and reached an altitude of approximately 8,000 feet. And then it vanished into an explosive ball of fire, falling in pieces to the Brook Sea. Immediately, rumors and conspiracy theories were rampant, particularly when multiple witnesses reported seeing the plane shot down by a nearby naval ship. Investigators felt pressure to find a definitive cause for the tragedy. All salvaged wreckage was transported to a warehouse outside of town where the plane was almost fully reconstructed and rigorously studied. After months of thorough investigation, experts stated that the explosion was likely caused by a short-circuiting wire in the fuel tank gauge. But with conflicting theories, the NTSB formally declared the cause of the Flight 600 tragedy as inconclusive.
While we may never definitively know why this devastating event occurred, no one will ever forget the tragedy of Flight 600.
June 9th, 2007 was a busy Saturday morning at Brookhaven Airport. After a 90-minute delay, Flight 33 was finally cleared for takeoff. The tower controller cautioned the crew about potential wake turbulence from a preceding aircraft. With First Officer Terry Knott at the controls, Captain Tim Whitman, celebrating 25 years on the job, took to the radio to acknowledge the warning with little concern.
Copy that. Nothing you can't handle, right, Terry? Yeah.
Moments later, Flight 33 hit that extreme turbulence, and First Officer Terry Knott attempted to stabilize the aircraft with alternating aggressive rudder inputs, stressing the aircraft's vertical stabilizer beyond its design limits. As a result, the vertical stabilizer snapped off, causing the plane to lose control.
What's happening? Get out of it! I can't!
Ultimately crashing into the Black Hawk neighborhood, where it destroyed a castle, a haunted house, and the home of Brookhaven's first Roblox YouTuber, Spam Tripper Nate.
Yo, 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 my peeps, today we're playing Rocket Arena. This is gonna be lit. I can't wait to get started. That's what she said. Okay, let's do this, Spam Squad. Both shizzle.
There were no survivors, and a memorial was quickly set up at the crash site. Moving forward from the devastating crash, the NTSB recommended modification of pilot training programs in hope of preventing a similar disaster in the future.